If there's a house involved in the estate you're dealing with right now, this video is for you. Most families have no idea what actually happens to real estate after someone passes. There are rules, there are options, and there are things you should know before you do anything. So stay with me and I'll walk you through all of it. My name is Ryan Smith. I'm a licensed realtor and certified probate expert. And every day I walk alongside families navigating probate and estate administration. If you're watching this, you're probably dealing with something hard right now. The loss of someone you cared about, a house that needs to be figured out, and a process that nobody really prepared you for. So in this video, I'm going to walk you through exactly what happens to the house when someone passes away. We'll cover what the law says, what your options are, and what you should do right now. Let's get into it. Let me start with a question that most people ask first. Does the house have to go through probate? And the answer, at least here in North Carolina, is not always. There are 3 situations where real estate can transfer to the next person without going through the court process at all. The first one is joint tenancy with right of survivorship. This means 2 people own the property together, and the deed was set up so that when one of them passes, the other automatically becomes the owner. So there's no court, there's no probate, it just transfers automatically. The second is a transfer on death deed. You can think of this like a life insurance policy, except instead of naming a beneficiary for the money, you're naming a beneficiary for the property. When the owner passes, the property transfers to that person, and thus no probate is required. North Carolina does recognize transfer on death deeds. It's a newer tool. Not every family has set one up. But if it's in place, it keeps the real estate out of probate entirely. The third is a living trust. If the property was held in a properly funded living trust, it passes to whoever the trust names without going through court. So here's your first practical step. Find the deed. The deed will tell you how the property is titled, and that tells you whether probate is required. If none of those 3 situations apply, the house goes through probate, and that's exactly what we're going to cover next. So what does probate actually mean for the house? Probate is the legal process for settling someone's estate after they pass. The court gets involved, all the assets are identified, debts get paid if there are any, and what's left gets distributed to the people who are supposed to receive it. Here's the thing about real estate specifically, is you obviously can't just split a house. Not the way you can split a bank account. If 3 heirs each inherit a 1/3 share of a property, none of them can actually do anything with their portion until the estate is resolved and title is formally transferred. And that's why this process matters. The house is oftentimes the largest asset in the estate, and it can't move, it can't be sold or transferred or distributed until the right legal steps have been completed. Now, who's responsible for making those steps happen? That's the personal representative. If the person who passed left a will, the will usually names someone as the executor, and that person is the personal representative. If there is no will, the court will appoint someone, and that person is called the administrator. It's a different title, but it's the same job. They are both legally responsible for managing the estate, including the real estate. Here in North Carolina, simple estates can close in a few months. More complex ones, especially when real estate is involved, can take a year or longer. And I'm not telling that to discourage you. I'm telling you that so you understand why getting organized early in the process can make a real difference. Let me talk about what the personal representative can actually do with the property. This is where a lot of families get confused. As the personal representative, you have the authority to manage the property, but it depends on the will. If there is no will or the court is involved, selling isn't just about putting a sign in the yard. It involves ensuring you have the legal right to list or the consent of the heirs to avoid a title disaster later on. So they, or the personal representative, can secure the property, they can list it for sale, they can accept an offer, they can pay the property's carrying costs like mortgage and taxes and insurance from the estate funds. But they also carry real responsibility. They have what's called a fiduciary duty. And that word fiduciary just means this, that they are legally required to act in the best interest of the estate. So not just their own interest and not just the loudest heir in the room, but everyone who has a stake in that estate. And that can carry some real pressure, especially when family members don't agree. So one thing I always recommend is if real estate's involved, work with a probate attorney. Not because you're required to. North Carolina doesn't require an attorney for probate, but the decisions you make around real estate can have consequences that last for years. So having somebody in your corner who knows this process is worth it. I want to be clear about something. I'm not an attorney. What I'm sharing with you today is educational. It's not specific legal advice. It's based on, the experience I have in working with families through the same process. So because your situation is specific to you, I highly recommend meeting with an attorney that specializes in probate and estate administration. If you need one, I can connect you with a vetted probate attorney who specializes in exactly this. Now let's talk about the 3 paths forward for the house, because this is where the real decision lives. Path 1 is to sell it. This is what I see as the most common outcome in probate. And it's not because the families want to let go of the property. It's just usually because selling is the most practical way to distribute the value of it fairly amongst everybody involved. So there's a few ways to approach this. You can list it the traditional way with working with a real estate broker if you choose, and put it on the MLS, and then work towards the highest possible price. You can go the cash offer route. Usually cash buyers purchase properties as is, so they're not expecting to do any repairs, or they're not expecting you to do any repairs. You don't have to deal with any showings. There's no waiting for financing from a buyer that potentially might fall through. I work with a network of buyers, and on most properties I can bring cash offers to you. Of course, no obligation, just some more options as far as that's concerned. One important note for North Carolina specifically is, depending on how the estate is structured, the probate court may need to approve the sale. This is, again, another reason why it's good to have a probate attorney in your corner in the very beginning. Path 2 is to keep it. Sometimes the family wants to hold on to the property, maybe because it's the family home, or maybe there's an heir who wants to live in it. That's a completely valid choice. But keeping it doesn't mean that it just stays in limbo. It still has to be formally transferred. And that usually involves a deed of distribution, which is a legal document that moves the property into the heir's name. If there's multiple heirs and one wants to keep it, the others typically need to be bought out. And there are financing options that exist for that exact situation. So we'll cover how to find the right professionals at the end of this video. Path 3 is to rent it. So some families don't want to sell it, but they also don't want to move in. So renting gives the estate and eventually the heirs ongoing income from the property instead of a one-time payment. So this works best when the estate is settled and the title is clear. So you want to know who actually owns it before you start collecting rent. Oftentimes a professional property management company can handle all of this, and including the tenant placement, rent collection, maintenance, and this way the property works for the family without anyone having to manage it from a distance. Please know I work with families all over the country, so even if you're not here in Wilmington, even if you're several states away, I can manage the entire process via the phone and digital tools. If the property isn't my immediate area, I can use my broker-to-broker referral network to find the best expert in that specific county, so you don't actually have to be local to get local expert advice. So there's the 3 paths. There's no wrong answer. The right choice depends on your family's specific situation, financially, emotionally, and practically. Now, I want to talk about something most families don't plan for, and this is what happens when the family can't agree. Heir disagreement around real estate is one of the most common situations I encounter. Someone wants to sell it, someone wants to keep it, or someone isn't talking to somebody else. This is completely normal, and from what I see, it doesn't mean the family's broken. It just means you're dealing with grief and money and shared history all at the same time, and that's hard for almost anyone. But here's what you need to understand. When heirs can't reach an agreement, the estate can stall sometimes for months. I've seen it stall for years. And if things escalate far enough, any heir can force the issue through the courts, and that's called a partition action. So here's what that means. If one heir files for partition, the courts can order the property to be sold regardless of what anyone else wants. It's a legal remedy that exists specifically for situations when co-owners can't agree on what to do with a shared property. It's also expensive, it's often slow, and it almost always damages family relationships permanently, from my experience. A better path, and one that most families take when they get the right guidance early enough, is to understand all your options before things reach this point. So get neutral, experienced guidance. Make decisions with the full picture in front of you. I work with families through this situation regularly, and if this is where you are, I can connect you with people who specialize in navigating exactly this. Let me give you some practical steps first, because sometimes the most useful thing isn't a legal concept. It's just, here's what to do right now. So step 1 is secure the property. If the house is vacant, and in probate it often is, change the locks, document the condition with photos and video, check the insurance status, make sure utilities are handled. A vacant property is a liability, and the faster that you secure it, the better. Step number 2 is Don't rush any major decisions. Grief and urgency are a dangerous combination. So you may feel pressure to sell quickly. You may feel pressure from heirs. So just take a breath, understand your options before you commit to anything. In my experience, a few weeks of clarity is worth more than a rushed decision that you're going to regret later on. Step number 3 is find the deed. Everything starts with a deed. It tells you how the property is titled. It tells you whether probate is required. It tells you who has the authority to act. Your county register of deeds keeps a copy on file. So in North Carolina, that's a public record. You can request it directly. Step number 4 is get a free assessment. You don't have to figure this all out on your own. I offer free, no obligation assessments to help you navigate this. So whether you're local or out of state, click the link in the description for my probate resources guide, and let's set up a time to talk if that's going to work best for you. I'll help you determine if you can handle this yourself or if you need a probate attorney in your corner, just so you understand exactly where you stand before you make any decisions. If you'd like me to connect you with a probate attorney, or you just have questions about where you are in the process, reach out anytime. And when you're ready to explore your options with the real estate, I can help with that too. Thank you for watching. I hope this was helpful. I hope it makes things a little more clear for you. Contact me anytime if I can be of help.